Good afternoon. We're gonna begin our meeting with the Elizabeth City Pasquotank School Board meeting. I'd like to wish all of you a happy Juneteenth. For those of you who are out there celebrating and those who are listening in. At this time, we will have our roll call.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Present.
Angela Cobb.
Here.
Tommy Old.
Here.
Pam Pereza, not present.
Rodney. She's present. She's on call.
Yep.
Present. Rodney Walton.
Here.
And Sharon Warden.
Present. Okay, thank you. And at this time, we will have our ethics awareness and identification of conflicts or potential conflicts of interest read by Ms. Alicia Cobb.
Welcome to the June 19th, 2023 meeting of the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Board of Education. It is my duty to remind members of the board that it is your responsibility to avoid all conflicts of interest and potential conflicts of interest in accordance with Chapter 138A of North Carolina General Statutes. As public servants, it is your duty to continually monitor, evaluate, and manage your personal, financial, and professional affairs in such a way as to ensure the absence of conflicts or potential conflicts. Does any member know of any conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the board today? Let the record reflect that no conflicts exist.
Okay, thank you very much. And at this time, I need approval of the agenda. If I can get a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda for June 19th, 2023 as presented. Second.
Okay, so it has been moved and properly second that we accept the agenda as presented. And can we get a roll call?
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Yes.
Angela Cobb.
Yes.
Tommy Old.
Yes.
Pam Pereza.
Yes.
Rodney Walton.
Yes.
Sharon Warden.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will do something a little different here because we are in the process of selecting a representative from the ECPPS to serve the Board of Trustees for the College of the Alamo. And we have our candidates here with us today, and each one will come. We will interview them. And of course, this is live and open because we do this in open session. And we have all of you gentlemen here, and they are all gentlemen if you cannot see them. And thank you all for being here this afternoon, and thank you for your interest in serving in this position. And so I am going to pass this over to Mrs. Sharon Warden, who is heading this committee, and she can move forward. Thank you.
As I indicated, gentlemen, we are going to begin with Mr. Beeman, moving in alphabetical order. So, Mr. Beeman, would you come up to the podium, please? We have received your information. We received your letter of interest as well as your resume. And I would simply like to ask you to, at this time, to expound on anything that you would wish to do so, that you included in your letter and in your resume.
So good afternoon to everyone. As has been indicated, my name is Vincent Beeman, native here of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, all of my life. Married with one daughter, and so Elizabeth City is all that I know. Went to the public schools here in Elizabeth City, from there to Elizabeth City State, from there for a master's in Troy State, and then to Fayetteville Technical University or Fayetteville Technical School for mortician, film directing. And so Elizabeth City is it for me. I think one of the main qualities that I certainly can bring to the Board of Trustees would be, number one, I started my career at College of the Alamo. Actually was a recruiter for the Bridges program. And so my job at that time entitled going around to the 7 counties, recruiting students for the GED program, especially the students that were not at the level that needed to be or economically at the level. And so that was what my job consisted of. From there, I stayed there probably for a year and a half. And then I moved to Elizabeth City State University for a career opportunity. I remained there for 30 years and retired from Elizabeth City State University. While I was at Elizabeth City State University, I was continually involved with COA. From the positions that I held, I started out at Elizabeth City State with the registrar's office as an office manager. And so part of that process allowed me to be able to register students. Of course, at that time, we're talking about 30 years back, so everything wasn't as electronic as it is now, or virtual, and so we did hands-on registration. And so it allowed me to be able to work with transfer students from Elizabeth City State, from COA, coming into Elizabeth City State, working with them just to be able to key their courses in and give some guidance. From there, I moved over to the General Studies Department, which was in the Division of Academic Affairs. And in that position, I served as the coordinator of first year experience. And so with the coordinator of first year experience, all students that came in, whether you were a transfer student or a new freshman, went through our orientation process. And so I had the opportunity then to continue to work with COA students. But from there, I moved into the position of the registrar's office. And for the registrar's office, of course, I was under several divisions, but the academic connection between COA actually started at that particular time. And so as the registrar, of course, I communicated with College of the Elmar registrar, some of the administrators, the provosts, during my tenure as the registrar on a daily basis. I was very instrumental in the beginning of the 2+2 project. The 2+2 project, of course, was the articulation agreements that we have with Elizabeth City State University, College of the Elmar, which simply made it a smoother transition for transfer students to be able to matriculate at Elizabeth City State University. Also, I served as one of the chairs for the transfer articulation. And at Elizabeth City State University, transfer articulations were handled in the registrar's office for probably the first 10 years of my being the registrar before we moved into the admissions office. And so that allowed me to work with the professors and the administrators at COA on almost a daily basis as we went through coming together to approve articulations that would be satisfactory for the students. Our whole goal in the connection with College of the Elmar and Elizabeth City State was to make it a smooth transition. And so then on the end, I was able to, after I retired, I went back to Elizabeth City State and actually served in the capacity of a consultant for the registrar's office. One of my goals, or one of my tasks that I received then, was to actually work with the SIP codes. If I'm not mistaken, the College of the Elmar, the community colleges have just moved to a process where all of the SIP codes, there are certain SIP codes that will navigate with each particular community college. And so I had the opportunity to start working that same process for Elizabeth City State as a retirement piece. And so those were the daily functions that I did with the College of the Elmar. More of the functions that were not the daily part was I actually served on about 75 committees at Elizabeth City State University. As the registrar's office normally is one of the main focuses of the campus. So just about anything that happens on campus, the registrar's office probably takes part in it. So that allowed me to be on several committees. And so with being on those committees, I served on several committees in regards to accreditation. So I'm very familiar with the process of the accreditations that is required for the community college, but certainly for Elizabeth City State University, four-year universities. We dealt with SACS. We dealt with the QEP, which is the Quality Enhancement Plan. And so those are things that I had to deal with on a daily basis. It was my job on a daily road to very often actually report back to the Board of Trustees of Elizabeth City State University. As being in the registrar's office, the registrar served on the academic council. I also served on the chancellor's cabinet. And so there were several times that I had to actually meet with several individuals for the Board of Trustees, but also several individual committees. Any committee that dealt with the academic piece, when it came to the part of looking at articulations, when it came to the part of enhancing any of the curriculums, I was a part of that. And so that type of knowledge that I have received in my career, I certainly feel will be an enhancement to the Board of Trustees for College of the Elmar.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions from the board for Mr. Beeman at this time? Mr. Beeman, I trust you had an opportunity to look at the bylaws manual of the from COA for the Board of Trustees. If you could identify one characteristic of yours that you think would be the best characteristic that you could bring to that Board of Trustees based on what you saw as their guidelines, what would it be?
I think integrity would be my number one. that's what I have been able to pride myself on. I was very confident in the role of the registrar. As we all know, the registrar deals with grades. And also, as we know, students are very enticed when it comes to having a higher grade. And I'll just leave that at that. And so it was always my duty to follow the laws that were set forth, no matter what the circumstances. That's how I've always operated. And so I certainly believe the level of integrity would be my number one things I can bring to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Beaver. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
sir. And as I said, Mr. Beeman, we will, after we have completed these interviews, we will have a discussion and a vote on who we would like to appoint. And you are welcome to stay, or you may leave at any time.
Thank you.
That's up to you. Okay. At this time, Mr. Sawyer.
Good evening. I want to thank y'all for your time tonight to hear me out on this chance to serve as COA trustee. Again, my name is Anthony Sawyer. Graduated from Northeastern in 1986. Played football, soccer, and was the water boy for the basketball team. I was never good enough to start or even make the team, so I gave them the water. So I would still consider a three-star athlete there. As soon as I graduated high school, I knew I wasn't going to college. I was kind of forced into the family business. We just wholesale. My grandfather ran one of the biggest tobacco and wholesale companies in this area at the time. And I worked there from 1984 all the way to 1998. Upon his passing, that's all I had really ever done at that point. I went right from there to the Southeast Army, driving the three-store truck, did that for about 6 years. Got to serve the community, got to help people, put clothes on the back, and feed people that needed it. I felt good doing that. After that, I went on and drove a beer truck for a while. And that was basically killing my back. I did that for about 4 years. Then I went into the cab business in 2007. I've been there ever since. I have 4 cabs. I drive one daily. I have 3 other people that work for me. And that's what I'm currently doing. I work 7 days a week, going at 4 in the morning, leave at 4 in the afternoon. Don't know how much longer I can do that though. As far as besides my work experience, as you all know, I was a volunteer at Northeast High School football for 17 years. And that took up a lot of my time, but I loved it to death. And still fighting to get back there. I sure don't have a lot of the qualifications Mr. Beamer had. I mean, he's a great man, but I just would like to maybe just bring a fresh voice to the COA. A new perspective, somebody that doesn't have a lot of degrees, but has been out there in the public and knows what the public needs and wants and deserves. And I'm not afraid to speak up. I think y'all know that. And I just would like to have the opportunity to serve if y'all see fit.
And as I asked Mr. Beeman, I assume you had an opportunity to look at the bylaws that are required of the COA trustees, and if you had to indicate one characteristic that you feel you would benefit that role, what would it be?
I'm glad that question was asked in that way. Being a coach and player, what I would like to do is, like I previously stated, bring in a voice there. I remember the athletic department getting dismantled, and I would love to see the athletic department get a reboot, started over again. I don't remember the exact years. I want to say somewhere between 2007 and 2012, they actually had an athletic department. They had a baseball team. that was very good. I mean, they were beating everybody, even though they didn't have any real backing. They had a bus that broke down every time they went on the road, and the people that should have been supporting that baseball team really wasn't, but they were still winning despite that. And after a while, for some reason, they just had a vote to whether to continue the athletic department or not, and the vote came up, and they just did away with it. I know COA is always looking at trying to increase the population there. But one way to do it is restart the athletic program. That'll bring a lot of people in, whether it's athletes or just people that want to watch the sports. I think that was devastating when they did away with that. And if I could actually get in there and sit down, that would be the first thing out of my mouth is what do we have to do to get this this athletic conference back? What do we have to do to get a baseball team, a girls softball team, basketball team? What do we have to do to get that? Like I said, I don't think it should have ever went out anyway, but that would be the biggest thing I would like to accomplish.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer.
You know, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Sawyer, wait a minute. Mr. Walton reminded me that I did not ask if there were any other questions that any of the board members wish to ask of you. Okay?
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walton. Okay, and now, Mr. Thornton.
Well, hey, my name's Ed Thornton. I'm a 38-year teaching veteran. Taught all over Eastern North Carolina. Taught for 10 years in Edenton. Went to Fayetteville at 71st High School for a couple years, and came to finally to my home at Northeastern, where we worked for the last 15 years of my career. Taught in Tennessee for 3 years right after I got out of college. Taught in Georgia for a year. You know, so like I said, I was kind of searching. I've referred to myself as that, kind of a searcher, looking for a purpose, looking for a place. Coached at Gallaudet University in D.C., which you may or may not know is the only university in the world for deaf and hearing impaired folks. That was a great experience. I learned so much about, not just about coaching, but about teaching there, because it really made you evaluate how you talk to people and how you talk to the players, because you know you were having to communicate a different way. You know, you had to do it with sign language, you had to do it with demonstration, you had to do it, and you had to figure out how to do things differently. And so, like I said, that was a great experience. I loved it up there. And then we moved down to Edenton. Eastern North Carolina, I've lived here longer than I lived at home. You know, longer than I lived in Georgia where I was born. And you know, this is where we raised our son. He's a Northeastern graduate. Took some classes at COA. Went to Chowan, got his master's from Wake. You know, so Eastern North Carolina is what I know. My focus, as far as the position at COA, and my focus as far as my entire education career has been students. I'm a student-focused kind of guy. And COA plays such a huge role in this area, not just with kids getting college credit to transfer to go somewhere else, but as far as the career technical education stuff, with the basic law enforcement, with the nursing programs, all those things. I mean, it has a huge, not just educational impact, but a big economic impact in the area. And I find that very interesting to me. I'm kind of my motivation for this, because I'm kind of a searcher. I'm looking for an answer. And when I was thinking about applying for this, I was looking for an answer. You know, I was looking for a why. Why am I interested in this? And the answer I came up to for that was that, you know, that it made me reflect on my career in education, is that one of the things that I've always looked at education as being, and particularly I was a history guy, history and civics guy, was that role is to help create citizens, to help to create better citizens, better members of society. And I definitely think that's something that since I retired 3 years ago, that I have kind of been searching for, that I've kind of been looking for, is something to give me a sense of I was being of service. And so that's kind of where I'm at. So
Do you have one characteristic that you feel probably you look at as being a major benefit of the servant?
one of them I'll say is that I am a student-centered kind of guy. I'm looking out. That they're always my first priority is the students. Is it going to be beneficial to me?
Do any of the board members have any questions for Mr. Thornton? Okay,
All right.
Mr.
Thank
Thornton,
you all.
thank you very much. Well, thank you, gentlemen, all three of you, for your interest. It's quite a compliment to you, to all three of you, to say that you want to serve, you want to become a major part and make an impact on the young people in our community and serve our community. So for that, we thank you for even considering the application. With that, does anyone have anything that they would like to comment on at this point before I ask for a vote? We've had this information, we've had an opportunity to look at it, we've had an opportunity to hear from the candidates at this time. So does anyone have any point of discussion at this point? Okay, so I am going to call for a vote for either Mr. Beeman, Mr. Sawyer, or Mr. Thornton.
One quick question.
Okay.
Is there any specific instructions on how we're going to vote, or is there anything we need to make sure Tommy and Mr. Owens or Ms. Cobb are aware of with regard to voting?
No, you basically you vote for whomever you feel would fill the role of the trustee based on the information we've received and what you've heard today.
This is a verbal vote, not a ballot vote.
Yes, it is a vote. All right. So we will begin with Mr. Beeman. Do we have a vote for Mr. Beeman at this point? Anyone? Mr. Sawyer will be our appointment. Mr. Thornton.
Ms. Morgan, virtual, but I vote yes.
Mr. Thornton? Mr. Thornton, correct? Ms. Pereza?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you're voting yes to which candidate? which candidate are you voting yes for?
Yes, for Mr. Thornton.
So that is four for Mr. Thornton. Bonnie, are you
I'm staying.
abstaining? Okay. So we have 4 votes for Mr. Thornton. So at this point, Mr. Thornton, thank you so much. And I assume COA will contact you.
Okay.
We will send your name, to them, and, they will contact you.
Well, thank y'all, and I'll do my best to represent y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton.
All right,
And
thank you.
as I said before we began, if you gentlemen would like to remain for the rest of the meeting until our closed session, you are certainly glad to do. We're very glad to have you remain, but you can also leave if you would like to. That's totally up to you.
Alright, thank you all. We will move forward then. At this time, we will have the Financial Business and Technology Committee that's chaired by Ms. Sharon Warden. So over to you, Ms. Warden.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. At this time, I'd like to call on Ms. Haynes, who will present the items for consideration. Some of these items she is asking for action on today. She will indicate that in her presentation. So, Ms. Haynes, I turn it over to you.
Dr. Williams, Ms. Ward, board members, good evening. We do have several items on the agenda this evening, and we are requesting action on all of the items under the Finance, Business, and Technology Committee. We're gonna group them, the first 3, then number 4, and then 5 through 7, if that conditions. The first item on the agenda is FBT 01, and this is our insurance renewals for the coming school year. You have in your packet a copy of the renewal for the general liability insurance, which is an increase of about $236 over last year, and that's our basic liability policy. The next quote in the packet is for the automobile, actually I said increase, it was a decrease of $236, I apologize for that. And this is with School Board Trust. The next one is also a School Board Trust, and it's the automobile policy, and this is for all vehicles other than the yellow buses that are owned by the district. So the yellow buses are covered by the state, this is for county owned vehicles. And that is an increase of about $505. And then the final renewal in your package is for workers' comp and the extended cyber liability insurance. And we did take an increase, a large increase on workers' comp because of the amount of payroll that we're moving to, that'll be local and federally paid next year. And then of course the liability insurance went down by about $367. Are there any questions on the insurance renewals that are presented this evening?
Is there, I had one question about the cyber, insurance. Did you see any changes in that based on, some of the things that are occurring now with, the increased, hacking instances and stuff like that?
So actually, we had a small decrease, and we've had no reported incidents, which definitely had some increased security things that have been added since our last policy submission. So we've had a small decrease in that renewal this year.
How much coverage do we have for cyber? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
That's why I asked you, because I couldn't find it. Just curious because of what's going on statewide.
So it should be on page 3 of the Surrey insurance renewal. It'll give you the detailed schedule of the cyber. So it's an aggregate of $1 million, but then it's broken out by different, by breach expense or.
The only reason I ask is
data
after going to risk management training up at the school board, and the people that came in, and I know Amber knows all this, but we have some school districts in the state that they were being held for ransom. And it was a whole lot more than that. So that's the reason I asked. And I know with risk management, you can pay and pay and pay, and it still might not be enough. I understand that, but are we in line with the other school districts, at least in our northeast? I'm not concerned about Wake County, but
Yes, sir, we are.
okay.
Surrey Insurance is our, I guess you call our policy, well, our policies go through Liberty Mutual and Cowbell, I think is what it's called, is the cyber insurance holder, but our agent is an agent that works with all districts throughout the state, so we are in line with other districts. Are there any other questions on the insurance? Alright, the next item on the agenda, FBT 02, is request to increase the limit of the Wells Fargo credit cards. So we do currently have Wells Fargo credit cards, but what we are finding is we're having a harder and harder time getting, especially hotels, to take checks and some vendors. So it used to be that when we traveled, we could easily send a check to the hotel or have someone take a check with them. But more and more we have hotels that are refusing to take checks, and even some vendors that are not wanting to take purchase orders any longer. So the actual request of the increase is $25,000, which would bring the total limit to $45,000. But we do need the signature of 2 board members in order to increase the credit limit on that account. Are there any questions on the Wells Fargo credit limit?
I just think it's a good thing that's bringing us up to date.
I do too.
That's what I would say too.
Yep.
So, that's good for us.
And they're done.
And the final item, before we take action on these 3, is the payroll calendar for next school year. So you should have in your packet a copy of the payroll calendar. It follows the payroll calendar for this year, with early pay dates in November, December, and January, and June. The others are at the last day of the month. Any questions on the payroll calendar? If there are no questions on those, Ms. Ward, would you like to take action on these 3 or?
That'd be fine. I'd like to move to approve FBT 01 insurance renewals, and FBT 02 credit limit increase for Wells Fargo credit card, and FBT 03 the payroll calendar as presented.
I'll second. So it's been moved and properly second, that, on the 3 items presented, and can we get a roll call?
Angela Cobb,
Yes.
Tommy Old,
Yes.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
and Sharon Warren.
Yes.
Thank you.
And do you want me to go ahead and,
Can we move forward with FBT 04, the RFQ for design services? So the next item that we're going to discuss is the RFQ for design services for Northeastern High School. Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools did solicit requests for qualifications for design consultant for the design, renovation, and modernization of Northeastern High School. This would be part of the application process for the needs-based capital grant that we would like to submit this year. The solicitation was posted on the Interactive Purchasing System, which is the state's IPS system, in the Daily Advance, and also on ECPPS's website. Proposals were due in May 19th at 3 o'clock, and we received 4 proposals from qualified firms. The firms that submitted proposals were Davis Kane Architects, LS3P, Oakley Collier Architects, and SFLA. Proposals have been reviewed on the following criteria: expertise and past performance, staffing and design team, sustainability and school design, proximity to school project, grant application assistance experience, and then specialized expertise. So to walk you through a little bit of the proposals, on expertise and past performance, all firms submitted proposals have completed renovation projects within the last 7 years. LS3P has completed the most projects, followed by Davis Kane, which not all of those were actually renovations, they were some feasibility studies. Then it was SFLA with 9 projects and Oakley Collier with 4. All stated that there were no major legal or technical issues with their projects, so Davis Kane was involved in one resolution, but it was a good resolution for both. all have experience in North Carolina. The SFLA has worked in over 35 counties within the state. And LS3P, though, probably has the most experience in Pasquotank County, having completed projects previously for ECPPS and recently for NEED. SFLA has provided the most detail in their proposal on their design process and their approach to the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, which is basically to evaluate the entire building and not just each system as a standalone system. For staffing and design team, LS3P is the largest firm with 170 architects, compared to 17, which is the next largest firm, is SFLA, followed by 8 architects with Davis Kane and 5 for Oakley Collier. Staff members from each firm come with an impressive educational background and experience. Davis Kane and SFLA both included food design as part of their team, which is a company that specializes in the design of food service areas as well, so basically your cafeterias. Each firm has stated that their current workload would allow adequate time for this project, and all firms seek the use of hub or minority vendors. SFLA, though, had the highest percentage on a single project at 60%. As far as sustainability and school design, each firm has LEED professionals on staff and several qualifying projects. LS3P speaks to their designs, which include consideration of severe weather and protection against severe weather, and SFLA speaks to their goal of reducing total cost of ownership, basically designing for Energy Star rating and reducing energy consumption. As far as proximity to the school project, Oakley Collier is the closest firm with an office in Rocky Mount. The other three firms have offices in Raleigh. All are familiar with North Carolina building codes and completed projects within 100 miles of Elizabeth City. On grant application assistance, SFLA has the most experience with the needs-based capital funding grant, having assisted 8 school districts with their application. Oakley Collier has worked with 2 districts, and Davis Kane 1. And LS3P listed none, though they list experience with other grants such as USDA and EDA. All firms have experience in both new construction and renovations. Based on our review of the RFQs that were submitted, the evaluation committee recommends SFLA as the best qualified firm and would like to proceed with contract negotiations for this project. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Have they done any other projects in the Northeast?
They have done projects in the Northeast. So all of the firms that submitted have done some projects in the Northeast.
Being around close to us, or?
Well, within 100 miles of us. So I have to go back and pull the actual school itself that they worked with.
And all the projects went off like they were supposed to?
Yes. So we did look at change orders, bid changes coming in. All of them have basically stayed on track on budget, with maybe like one project, that had some variance, but not significant variances.
So you threw out a lot of letters there. The one that you're saying is the one that's the best. Is that the one with the most experience in the grant writing?
It is. They've
I
helped
thought so, but
They've
I
helped
just wanted to
8 separate districts
Okay.
with their grant application.
And they've had 100% success rate with their grants. And just to add one point, thank you, Rachel, that was very thorough. So, we applied for the need-based capital grant last year. We were unsuccessful in getting that grant from Northeastern. It's a grant up to $50 million that comes directly from the state of North Carolina with a 5% match from our county. And so this year we've enhanced our application strategy. And a part of that is what we're recommending for you this evening, which is some help with an architect to prepare the application. To go ahead and do an architectural study and design process in advance of the application. From our experience looking at some districts that received the grant, that's a really competitive edge to make us more marketable when we submit. The application itself should be available at sometime in August. That's when it launched last year, and a decision from DPI is issued around September. So what this would do is, pending board approval, would give us the ability to go ahead and prepare for the application for the capital needs grant. And then, of course, the actual work is contingent on getting the grant. And so, the board wouldn't be committing to, anything tonight other than pressing ahead with an architectural firm to then help us get to the grant. Our fingers are crossed and, Lord willing, we get the grant, then we'd be able to come back through contract negotiations and come to the board with some bona fide, ideas as we move forward. So I just want to add a little bit of, conversation about the capital needs grant and sort of where this is coming from. But if we are to receive that grant, it would allow us to completely modernize Northeastern High School, from top to bottom in a lot of ways. And so, that's a big goal for us. It could be a transformative thing for that school.
So you did say that the company has done this with other districts, is that what you said?
Yes,
And,
ma'am.
and they were successful in receiving the grant? And I'm sure they're not doing this for free. Did you discuss that part?
The way that it works is evaluation architects and engineers is you first have to pick the best qualified firm and then you negotiate with that firm. If you don't reach consensus, then you go to the next qualified firm. So our request tonight is just to be able to negotiate with SFLA to see if we can reach something that would be agreeable. Of course, that would then come back to the board for approval prior to.
Right, and I guess our question would be, as it has always been in the past, like, what does that figure look like?
And we won't know that until we start. And
So
so we
have
actually
no
ask them for
idea.
price. So this,
Okay,
design services, architects, engineers, it's a whole totally different process from normal bidding and, RFPs or IFBs or other quotes that you get. You're not allowed to even ask for a price until you've evaluated the firms themselves.
then
Cause they don't
you
want you
come
to
back
select
to us.
based on just price.
and then I'm guessing that amount will probably be subtracted, from the balance if we were to secure the grant. That's the way that. should
Correct,
work.
it's typically a part of the grant.
Excellent presentation. Thank you. Very thorough. Good job, Rachel.
So at this time, I'd like to move to approve the selection of SFLA as designer for the NHS renovation to be submitted with the needs-based public school capital fund grant application.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we move forward with the, needs grant application process and reviewing the companies selected. Can we get a roll call?
Angela Cobb,
Yes.
Tommy Owen,
Yes.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Sharon Warden.
Yes.
Sheila Williams. Yes. Yes.
Ms. Gordon, at this time, FBT 04, that was 04. FBT
That's
05,
04.
6, and 7 are,
Right.
technology quotes. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Godfrey for
Right.
presentation.
Exactly.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Parker, directors, and other attendees. This evening, I'd like to bring some items before you for action. Each of the quotes that you've been presented have been reviewed and negotiated for final discounts that you have, that were shared with you. First is FBT 05, which includes MCA Halo vape sensor quotes for the following secondary campuses: ECMS, River Road, Northeastern High School, Pasquotank County High School, and H.O. Trigg. That vape quote is for a total of 43 vape sensors, 10 at each of our main campuses and 3 at H.O. Trigg. These quotes are for the addition of Halo vape sensors and installation in each restroom on the campuses. These sensors will also be integrated into the current Avigilon camera system for additional alarm detection. I can stop for questions now, and then I'll move to the next one.
Okay, the quote includes installation, and is the installation done by the company who's providing? Okay,
Yes.
and
So
not
it's-
our maintenance?
Correct, MCA would
Okay.
do the, do all the installations for each of the sensors in each of the campuses
Okay.
and tie it back into our camera system.
And this is probably a dumb question. Where are the sensors
The sensors are located in the restrooms.
in the restrooms? And how does that, you said it integrated with the camera system. So if it goes off, then the camera outside the restroom pops on, is that the way it works?
Yep.
Okay.
Or
Sorry,
it
that's
sends,
all.
it sends an alert for it to make sure that it's recording at that time. That's
This is
correct.
not a technological question, but just a food for thought question, I guess. Has there been discussion on how to address this new system with the administrators in each building? As far as what that's gonna look like, what kind of ways do you figure out, like training for that? Has that been addressed with those administrators?
Yeah, so if this is approved and we decide to move forward with the project, We will make sure that we've done training with all of our administrators in our schools, as well as anybody else that the administrator feels on their campus needs the additional training.
One last question. How vandalism proof are these sensors? Because you know they'll be the next thing.
So just as with anything else that's an installation inside of a building, if we do see that we have issues, then we have to put a cage around it, just like you would a camera system. So that same option is there for these as well. Yeah. Okay, so the next item is FBT 06, which is Innovation Technology Labs for Northeastern High School and Pasquotank County High School. So in collaboration with Spark NC, these labs will focus on learning experiences for students that are learner-centered, industry relevant, and competency-based. And students will have access to course development focused on cybersecurity and AI machine learning, esports and game development, computer systems engineering, software development, and many others. So the quotes that have been shared with you and that I'm bringing before you this afternoon include 3 different items. The first one are the Dell student machines, which are the quotes that are shared with you, 300-154-284-123.2 and 300-154-284.127. Those are the student machines that would be entered into the labs at Pasquotank County High School and Northeastern High School. Those machines will be spec for students to be able to do the coursework that they may be doing through Spark NC, as well as when we move forward to doing some additional esports items as well. The second quote that's shared with you is through Trifera. That is for lock and charge charging cloud towers. That is quote E000-97230 and 97233. Those chargers are for the laptops that we would have in each of those lab spaces. The chargers are meant for 2 items. One is obviously for charging the device, and the other, they're also networked so that we can run updates through the machines as well. And then the last quote for that are the Camcore displays, quote 0554-99165 for 2 75-inch flat panels in each one of those spaces. Any questions about the innovation lab?
I can't, and I don't have it right now.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, but how many machines in each lab? How many Dells in each lab?
So what we have now is we have, for each space we have 12 desktops and the remainder are laptops. So we've done 20 laptops for Pasquotank High School and 30 for Northeastern. So that we can make sure we can add if we need to. We're trying to base off what we think our need might be as we get started.
So if we have a massive influx of kids that are so excited about all of this, we're gonna have to cap it initially, I guess, at the number of machines, because we don't have machines that can.
So we would do a class of 30 now. So what we would have to do at that point is also look at space, to see, what the space would also allow for us to add for that as well.
Right.
As we move forward and do more with the Spark NC lab, and if it goes on student schedules, then we'd have to start doing scheduling classes. But these labs are also meant for students to be able to use after hours too. We can have them manned for students to come in and work on coursework, maybe not always just during school hours. So.
Okay.
The last quote or attachment FBT 07 are for Media Center redesign upgrades. I've shared the redesign total for each of the 11 media centers. Each media center redesign has been approved by both the school principal and the media coordination in a collaboration effort to bring each of our school media spaces back to the center of our schools. So that includes 11 of our media spaces. Of course, we don't have a media center currently at HO Trigg or
So the last column is the final price. That's
It
the
is.
negotiated price.
Yeah. So that image kind of shows you where we started and where
Right.
we ended up after going back and forth after a couple of negotiations. Yes, sir.
This involved mostly the furniture and the shelving and stuff.
It does.
I just wanted to say that I love the fact that we're looking at making it equitable across the district as
Yep.
far as if we have some students that do transfer from school to school a lot, and so now if they're at school A and they transfer to school C mid-year, they're still gonna have that same vibe and feel, and I love that. I think that's gonna be really beneficial for our district.
Everybody's very excited.
I know they are.
And I did want to point out too here that we did receive a safety grant for the movie detectors. So that's going to pay for the equipment. And then we have money allocated from the county that will pay for the installation costs. And so we're very excited about that
I'm
opportunity.
excited.
And then we have also, for the media centers being collaborative learning spaces, we're going to be able to use ESSER monies to help us, fund those. So those will be, 2 funded programs there I think will be very helpful. And then one thought that came to mind about your question, Ms. Cobb, about the administrators is we know there's going to have to be some fine tuning with how administrators respond and provide duty coverage for bathrooms. And what the vape detectors will allow us to do is for administrators to be notified either through their phone or through alerts. And so we're going to have to work on a school by school basis of, 3 bathrooms go off at the same time, then who responds, right? So we're going to have to use some teacher leaders and have to know that there's going to have to be some, working through and feedback from the administrators to make that process, not be tedious on the side of the administrators, know that they do a lot of different things. And there'll have to be some fine tuning because you can set the sensitivity, correct? So you can adjust sort of the sensitivity of these detectors. And having used some of them previously, from my understanding from Amber and the work from our vendors, the technology even the past 2 years has come a long way. But 3 and 4 years ago when I had experience with them, sometimes loud noises would trigger them, right? So, but the technology has come a long way from that, and so we'll have to do some fine tuning, but that'll be a process where we bring the administrators in. So.
One other location question that I had, my mind immediately what I went to when you talked about Vigilante tying in and sensors is sometimes some of those cameras, they might not be close enough to a bathroom to see a picture of someone walking out where they're walking to. And then I started thinking about, are we looking at locker rooms? Okay, that would be another place that I think would be a place that you don't necessarily think about right off, but that would probably be a good place to have one.
That was one of the first things high school principals asked.
Mm-hmm.
2 little questions. One, will they be in place when school starts?
That is the current plan. If we get board approval, then we'll work on getting the order placed tomorrow, so that we can do installation as soon as possible. Unless we run into an issue with there being a back order somewhere, the plan is for us to have them in place.
And the second question is there going to be some type of education / information put out to parents about this?
Absolutely.
That was one of my, to piggyback on that, that was one of my thoughts. I think it needs to be very clear up front what our policy is if a student is, caught in this scenario, what happens. It needs to be, the consequences need to be very spelled out so that everybody's on the same
Because
page.
the first thing they're going to do is deny it, and then you're going to get into the other part.
It's a solid point.
Is there any legal wiggle room with regard to rights being violated?
That's what I'm looking at.
Not by being recorded. If the alarm goes off and there's supervision, and then let's say there's a camera footage of, let's say you're the only one in the bathroom, camera footage, alarm goes off, then that would be just cause for an administrator to perform a search of the student's person.
That's right.
And so because the litmus test for an administrator is just reasonable suspicion, and so that would provide it. I think to the point though about consistency, so Mr. Farnville, Mr. Fudge, and Dr. Waples are working right now with principals this summer to revise our discipline matrix and ensure that we have some consistency across schools, knowing that discipline is not always just signed, sealed, delivered. It is case by case, but we also need some consistency. And so that'll be a part that we have. And then we just got to heavily communicate to parents in open house when we send out notifications, handbooks to say, this is in every bathroom. And if it goes off, this is what our processes are so that folks are clear. So a lot of that work's gotta be built out, but that's a part of our process. Is
That's all.
get ready. Yeah, but there's solid points there.
So one student's ideal, but what if you have multiple students in the bathroom and not all students in that particular group are vaping, but one or two may be vaping? How do we then, I guess, protect the ones who aren't, that were in the bathroom at that time? Like, that's the other part of the legal part of it that I'm looking at. Like those students who are caught on camera, not vaping within a group, but the group who was vaping are actually, brought to the disciplinary, whatever action that is, to ensure that those other students who are not, have you thought about what happens in that particular scenario?
So that's a common scenario that I've experienced with vape detectors, because of the signed sealed delivery cases. One kid who I was talking about just then, that's in there. But in that scenario, it's the same litmus test. If 5 years ago, the vape detector was you could smell somebody smoking in the bathroom. That doesn't happen anymore because nobody brings cigarettes to school anymore. There's no matches or cigarette lighters anymore. It's all vapes now. So in that case, if you smell smoke, you could bring kids out and you could investigate like you normally would when you have multiple kids, asking one kid individually, tell me what went on in there. Starting that process, and that's what we would have our administrators do even with these, is go through an investigation process to find reasonable suspicion, and if the administrators find reasonable suspicion, they then have the legal aptitude to search and to do what they need to. Look, reasonable suspicion doesn't happen there, then they move on as they normally do. Good question though. Now you go by the bathroom, you don't smell smoke, you smell blueberry, whatever, it's just, it's a whole new world, in terms of these vapes, so it's not, yes,
And
it's
a
not,
lot of times
yeah.
they don't take vapes in with them. They're already in there.
They're hidden in
And they're
there.
hidden,
Yes.
or they're hidden all over the schools.
Again, I'm old.
It's the last 3-4 years, it's it's a whole new game. It's a whole new game. It's a whole new thing.
That's new to me, I didn't even know you could.
Thank you.
But the company that installs these, they're gonna do the training as well? Okay, so, the administrators will be trained by those,
People from MCA.
okay, as well as anyone else who's identified as someone who needs the training.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I'm assuming that a resource officer may be one of those people.
And they've been advocating very heavily for these space detectors. They're not a solve-all, but they're a tool that we can use to try to educate and provide more accountability.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That it? Any other questions? All right. So I'd like to move to approve FBT-05, which is the Halo sensors quote. FBT-06, the quote for the Innovative Technology Labs at Northeastern High School and Pasquotank County High School. And FBT-07, the Media Center upgrades.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and properly second to approve FBT 05, 06, and 07. Can we get a roll call, please?
Angela Cobb,
Yes.
Tommy Old,
Yes.
Pam Preza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
and Sharon Warden.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for your presentations, very thorough, we appreciate that, and that does it for my committee.
That was a lot, thank you, Ms. Gordon. Okay, at this time, we have the policy committee that's chaired by Mr. Tommy Old.
And I'm going to defer to Ms. Rhonda James Davis, as this is the second reading for the PCO 2120 Code of Ethics for School Board members.
Acting Chair and Madam Vice Chair, Dr. Williams, Dr. Parker, board members, colleagues, and members of our community. Tonight is the second reading of the proposed revision to policy 2120, which is the Code of Ethics for School Board members. The purpose of this revision is to strengthen the existing policy and align it with the guidelines provided by the North Carolina School Board Association for all of its member districts. Do you have any further questions or discussion or concerns regarding the recommended revision? Okay, if none, I am requesting the board to vote to approve the proposed revision to agenda item PC-01, policy 2120, titled Code of Ethics for School Board Members.
Okay, and I'll make a motion to approve PC-01 Code of Ethics for School Board Members.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we approve the code of ethics or revised code of ethics for school board members. Can we get a roll call, please?
Angela Cobb,
Yes.
Tony Old,
Yes.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walters,
Yes.
and Sharon Warner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. James Davis. And at this time, we have personalized education. Chairing that is Ms. Pam Pereza. And we're looking at an update for student board members. Ms. Perez, are you prepared to present that?
Hey there, yes, I can. I was gonna defer to Rodney and Angela to give you an update.
Okay.
I wasn't clear.
Okay, that's fine. Both are here, so.
We've been here, okay.
Okay, you can go on. We can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. Yeah, we just need to let the rest of the board know that we're gonna defer to June for the interviews for the student board members. And we are looking at that one and only.
Date.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
One and only
Meeting in June.
board meeting that we have that month, and we would like to ask for a request to do a special meeting from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock for those interviews.
That's July's meeting.
July meeting. You mean July, right? Not June. Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, July, sorry.
We need to have a special meeting for, requested for.
Well, we would have to do that, but one of the things that we're gonna be doing next Monday on the 26th, presenting to the board the regular meeting schedule for July through June. And so, whenever the board would decide to be your regular meeting day, then we could just call a special call in advance of that meeting. So let's say your regular meeting is July 24th, and the board wanted to interview earlier, then we could do a special call from 5 to 6, and then that's your special call for the student board members, then you roll right into your regular at 6.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
And we only have four applicants, so I think we should have more than enough time to do that in an hour.
Is that 2 from each school?
There's one from Northeastern,
One
one from early college, two from P-Tech. What schools, okay.
Okay. Anything additional? Anything you all want to add? Okay. Anything you'd like to add, Ms. Pereza?
No, I'm good. Just whatever meeting we decide on, I thought it was July 17th, and tentatively, so at 6 o'clock, so we could do 5 to 6 as a request to have a special meeting before the regular meeting. That would be great.
I guess everybody should have been able to see the Excel spreadsheet that Dexter provided with the candidates. Get an idea of what they should look at.
When did you send it out?
There was supposed to be a link sent
No, it's, I shared it with you guys as a file,
as a file.
but I can reshare it just so it'll be at the top of your thing. I'll do it now.
Share it with everybody?
Yeah, it should have been.
So you can see the applications.
I can resend. It's not a problem.
Okay, all right, if there's nothing else, then I'm gonna ask you to take us into close. Ms. Cobb will take us into close, please.
I'd like to make a motion for the board to go into closed session as allowed by NC General Statute 143-318.11A6 for the purpose of considering one or more personnel matters that are confidential under NC General Statute 115C-320 and as allowed by NC Statute 143-318-11A3 to consult with the board attorney regarding matters protected by the attorney-client privilege and to preserve that privilege. The board will resume open session following closed.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we go into close. Can we get a roll call, please?
Angela Cobb.
Yes.
Tommy Old.
Yes.
Pam Preza.
Yes.
Rodney Walton.
Yes.
And Shannon Gordon.
Yes.
Close, thank you.